is coming my way. Wherever I go, hard luck is there to stay. Good luck never stays a day. Bad luck's always coming my way.
Today's adventure brings us right to the heart of Hollywood. Just look how beautiful that tree is. As beautiful as it is, what we're here to talk about is down here at the far end of this alleyway. You see that giant water tower? Today it's the Paramount water tower, but back in the day, in like the 40s, before Paramount bought it, it was the RKO tower. When it comes to Hollywood, there are so many different stories and so many different legends. The glitz, the glamour, and just like the alley I'm walking through, a little bit of a seedier side. Now this water tower that used to be the RKO water tower has a very, very interesting story when it comes to Hollywood legends. And it all has to do with Marilyn Monroe. Right now I'm standing in about the middle of the alleyway between Gower Street and El Centro. About the center of your screen, you can see the water tower. That's Paramount Studios, which used to be RKO. But if we come this way and look down this side towards El Centro, you see that building down there? Back in the 40s, that was an orphanage called Hollygrove Orphanage. And I don't know if you know this or not, but Marilyn Monroe, back when she was 9 years old, she lived here in this orphanage for about 2 years. Now I'm sure you already know this, but just in case you don't, Marilyn Monroe wasn't her real name. Instead, it was Norma Jean Baker. And she spent the majority of her childhood in and out of this orphanage and foster homes around Hollywood. But back in the 40s, when she was here at the age of 9, this building was the Hollygrove Orphanage. It's crazy. It's undergone a whole bunch of renovations. It doesn't even look the way that it did back then, but it's still here. And this balcony, you can see this window. That's where her room was. Now this is where the story of Norma Jean Baker gets really interesting, and ultimately what sucked me in and wanted me to come down here and visit this. Norma Jean Baker, Marilyn Monroe's mother, gave her up for adoption whenever she was very young. Basically, she had a hard time taking care of her. She had a lot of mental health issues. We know this is the orphanage where Marilyn Monroe was at. We know where her room was. Now, there's a whole bunch of books out there written about Marilyn Monroe's life, and she said that whenever she was young and staying here at this orphanage, that she would often look out that window down the alleyway that's across the street, which is right here, at the RKO Tower, which is now the Paramount Tower, and she would often dream about becoming a movie star. Now also, her mother at the time was a film editor, or film cutter I think it was, here at RKO Pictures.
I used to sit up in the window and cry because I'd look over and I'd see RKO, and I knew my mother had worked there and she'd been a cutter there, and all the kids were asleep. I used to sit up in the window and at night, and as I say, when everyone was asleep. And when I went there to work during Clash by Night, I stood there and I wanted to see back to see if I could see the orphanage, but you can't. It's too many sound stages in the way, and office buildings and homes.
Now what's really neat is Marilyn Monroe's story doesn't end there. About the center of your screen is the Hollygrove Orphanage, but right across the street you're going to find these two buildings. There's a brick one there, and if I back up a little bit and get them both in, there's another building that's painted black and it has a mural on it. Both of those have a connection to Marilyn Monroe as well. So how does this all tie together? Well, I'm going to tell you. In the earliest days of this playhouse, one of the people that was always performing here, I guess you would say one of the regulars, was a man by the name of Sidney Chaplin, who was Charlie Chaplin's son. She was dating Sidney Chaplin, and she would often come to this playhouse and watch his plays. The story goes that sometimes after the plays, the actors would come out and perform on the street and running up and down the sidewalk, entertaining the orphans in the orphanage across the street. Wild, right? If that story's true, one can only imagine that Marilyn Monroe did the same thing. I mean, why wouldn't she? If she was dating Charlie Chaplin's son and she grew up across the street, why wouldn't she be out here performing and entertaining the orphans? Now, I keep saying Marilyn Monroe. I know her name growing up was Norma Jean Baker, but everybody knows her as Marilyn Monroe. And you just can't break that habit. She was an icon. Even though a lot of the building has changed over the years, a lot of it is still the same. Again, that's where Marilyn Monroe stayed, her dorm. But check this out. Now, I'm not going to rip away the ivy. I'm just going to let it grow. But the original sign, you see there's the L, there's the Y, and there's a G. The original sign that said Hollygrove is still here. Look at that. It just blows my mind. Crazy, right? Right there. And on the other side of the gate, the fence, let's see, there's 815. You can kind of make that out. N for North, El Centro. Talk about hidden history, right? Yes, I'm all about visiting the Grimm locations, but sometimes you just have to take a walk down through history. Sometimes history can be pretty darn amazing. Thank you guys for joining us on another Grimm adventure, this time in Hollywood, to the Hollygrove Orphanage. And as always, happy Halloween.
Wherever I come, bad luck is coming my way. Wherever I go, hard luck is there to stay. Good luck never stays a day. A bad luck's always coming my way.